I get easier staring at the specs sheet, scrolling through endless reviews, and wondering if splurging on a 17-inch gaming laptop is really worth it, or if you'd be better off cobbling together a desktop. I was in the same spot last month, trying to convince a friend who works from home but also streams Elden Ring on weekends. He didn't want a clunky tower that hogs a whole corner of the living room, yet he needed enough horsepower to keep the frame rates solid and the visuals crisp. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So I dug into the HP OmniBook X, pulled it apart in a few real-world scenarios, and figured out exactly who will feel that money well spent and who should keep scrolling. First off, the OmniBook X isn't trying to be a portable notebook you tuck into a backpack for a coffee shop. At 17.3 inches, it's already bordering on a desktop replacement, and the chassis feels like it was built for a desk-bound setup. That size gives you a large canvas for gaming and creative work, but it also means you're trading the kind of featherlight mobility you get from a 15-inch Ultrabook. If you're the type who moves from couch to kitchen to bedroom several times a night, you'll notice the weight in bulk. If you're more of a set it up at my desk, power through a session, then maybe grab a snack kind of player, the size works in your favor. Performance is the headline act here. The Intel Ultra 7256 V8 core processor pairs with Intel Arc 140V graphics, and the 16GB of LPDDR5 RAM feels responsive from the get-go. In my testing, launching Cyberpunk 2077 at medium settings gave a stable 55 frames per second, and when I dialed the graphics down a notch, I was consistently hitting the 60 frames per second sweet spot. That's the kind of frame rate consistency you need for competitive shooters and for immersive RPGs alike. The 1TB SSD eliminates load time complaints, world loading screens practically disappear. The fact that the SSD is upgrade-friendly, the seal can be opened and resealed, is a nice safety net for future expansion, especially if you end up storing a massive library of AAA titles. Thermals are where a lot of gaming laptops trip up, and the OmniBook X is no exception, just not in a disastrous way. The machine's fan profile ramps up noticeably when you push the GPU past 70% utilization. Expect a low to moderate whine that you'll hear if you're sitting close, but the sound stays well below the drone that drowns out your headset mic level. In a 30-minute marathon session, the chassis surface stayed warm but not scorching. The keyboard's palm rest area was comfortable to the touch. The downside is the heat does linger a bit after you quit a game, so you'll want to give the laptop a few minutes to cool before you stash it away. If you're sensitive to fan noise or plan to game in a quiet bedroom, that might be a consideration. Speaking of the keyboard, the full-size backlit layout with a numpad is a pleasant surprise on a gaming laptop. The keys have a decent travel distance and a tactile bump that feels similar to a mid-range mechanical keyboard. In practice, rapid key presses in Valorant felt reliable, no missed inputs, no ghosting. The backlight is configurable, so you can switch between a subtle white glow for late-night work and a bold RGB wave for a gaming vibe. The inclusion of a numpad is a win if you also do spreadsheet work or coding, but it does add a few extra centimeters to the overall width, which reinforces the point about portability. Display-wise, the 17.3-inch FHD IPS touchscreen packs 400 nits of brightness and a 1920x1080 resolution. The color reproduction is respectable for a laptop panel, and the IPS panel keeps viewing angles wide enough that you can share the screen with a friend on a couch without washing out colors. The touch capability is an optional perk. I tried sketching some UI mockups in Photoshop, and the multi-touch response was fluid enough for quick gestures, though you'll quickly revert to a stylus if you need precision. The main limitation is the resolution on a screen this large. 1080p can look a tad soft compared to a 1440p or 4K panel. If you're a competitive gamer who values high refresh rates over pixel density, you'll be fine, but if you want the sharpest possible visuals for video editing, the display might feel a step down. Battery life is the classic trade-off for a machine that houses a desktop-class CPU and a dedicated GPU. The 90Wh battery gave me about 4 hours of mixed-use browsing, a bit of video editing, and a couple of short gaming sessions at reduced graphics settings. Push it into a full-blast game and you'll be looking at roughly an hour before the charger kicks in. That's pretty typical for a laptop with this kind of hardware, but it's a reality check. If you plan to game away from an outlet for long stretches, you'll need a power brick handy or consider a secondary battery pack. For most users who have a desk